Hey guys, Kyle here. So, just before the show starts, I wanted to mention our Patreon. You can pay us $1 a month as a thank you, as a tip. You can pay $2 a month to get access to one of our bonus content shows, episodes 2 days early, and a secret Discord chat where all of our Patreon donors get to go and hang out and talk with us directly. Then there's a $5 tier that you can donate to get access to a whole bunch more content. We have multiple bonus episodes on there. So please check it out. Patreon.com/itgetsweird. We don't advertise, we don't make money. So check it out and throw some money if you think that would be cool. Thanks. Welcome to It Gets Weird, our comedy show where we explore the unusual, the unbelievable, and the unexplained to try and make your world a little weirder. I'm Kyle.
And I'm Niall. And today is the day where everyone gets to make the... I don't know if you've gone on social media today, but this is a thing that I've found is everyone either has to make an ironic anti-4th of July post or they post something that happens on 4th of July that isn't related. I'm not seeing a lot of like real patriotism this year. I'm kind of seeing a lot of ironic detachment and also spite. So it's a bit of an interesting 4th of July vibe today.
We don't really like hang out in the circles that would be genuinely patriotic. I think that's
true.
Just not really
I have not seen someone wearing an Old Navy American flag T-shirt in many a year.
Yeah. Sorry. You know what just popped in my head is the Bo Diddley song "My Eagle Is Pissed." If you remember that whole thing on our discussion about 9/11 songs, which, speaking of, my way of celebrating the 4th of July every year is to watch and then post my personal favorite, one of my favorite YouTube videos, which let me just check that title. It is
you can check his Twitter right now, and it is there. This is a true thing that he posts every year.
I post it basically every year. This is God Bless the USA 9/11 dance/footwork group.
Yeah. So I want you to just quickly, because footwork is a thing that has been a joke between you and Garrett since high school.
Yeah, so like, here's the thing. Footwork itself is not a joke to us.
Sorry, you live and breathe footwork.
What is a joke to us is Garrett and I doing footwork. Because, God, this is such weird. I don't know if this lore has been brought up on the podcast. And, hopefully not, because I'm going to drop it here. But, like, Garrett and I, if you're listening to this show, you're like, oh, Kyle and Niall, they do bits. Which is true. Niall and I do a lot of bits together. That is like our lifeblood.
You can't hang out with the friend group without having at least like a bit for every hour.
You gotta have a bit. Like, you gotta have like a comedy bit going on. And honest to God, maybe Garrett would be able to tell you. I can't look you in the eyes, Niall, and tell you with certainty how it happened. But one of the bits that was recurring with me and Garrett that Niall can attest to is we would when we would first meet up again after a couple days absence or a couple weeks or months absence, Garrett and I would do a little dance, usually involving moving your feet around in a way similar to footwork YouTubers.
I want to make this. I want to quickly just annotate this from the outsider's perspective because I feel it's important to get the right context here.
Yeah.
This is not a thing where they get together and hang out, and after some time it kind of comes about. No, Garrett, as soon as he crosses a threshold, usually we hear him coming because he plays music that is setting the tone for the footwork that is to come.
Yeah.
As he's coming down whatever hallway, and then he will come into the apartment and immediately start tapping his toes.
Yeah.
And Garrett and Kyle, as if moved by some unnatural supernatural force, rises out of wherever he is sitting as he hears this siren call coming down the hallway and joins him. And they start doing not synchronized. There's some personality to it from both of them.
Thank you for saying so.
But it's the feet just start tapping.
We just start moving around a little. I don't know why we do this. But it's a thing we've done for a very long time now. We're like, yeah, that apartment door opens, Garrett's standing there, his music's playing. We get up, we kind of do some footwork. I don't know if it comes from this video, but we did, Garrett and I mean, this 9/11 footwork video is, it's very Garrett and Kyle coded, if you know our sense of humor.
Yeah.
As far as YouTube videos go. And it's just these guys, it starts with like an audio clip of George Bush saying something about like the 9/11 terrorist attacks and all that. And then it's just these guys doing footwork to this like song that is so bad.
I love that we keep just saying doing footwork as if that is a thing that people know what that is. It is a very it's like a weird jazz tap step thing where you're dancing, but your hands and upper body are mainly just kind of posed in one way, and your feet are just moving. It's not river dance. It's not like that kind of thing, but it's very, very foot focused.
Here's the thing, Niall. I have my current roommate, Elliot, who has been on Internet Experience Deluxe, my Patreon show. Mm-hmm. I've shown him this video of the 9/11 footwork taken over, 9/11 taken over, I think is what it says in the video. And Elliot informed me that footwork was like a drum and bass Chicago thing.
Oh, okay.
So it's called footwork. It's a dance style. And Garrett and I have we do not believe we're like good at it. We don't really know what good footwork looks like. We're just both very enamored with the idea of performing this dance to a 9/11 themed American Pride song. So
yeah,
that's what that's about.
It's very because sometimes Garrett will shake it up, and it's been done to Madonna, it's been done to Justice, it's been done to Rat-a-tat. That's a pretty common one.
That's a common one.
Lady Gaga has graced the footwork presence. It really is whatever Garrett's feeling at the moment.
And this is another one of those very rare times on the podcast where you can very specifically date when the episode is being recorded. And I would just like to say, it's been a fucked up week. This has been the fucked up July for me so far. We talked about fucked up summer on one of these recent episodes, I think. And, that's just been happening. And so some shit got in the way of recording. And just a lot of stuff going on. I before we started recording, I was telling Niall all about how this morning I basically spent an hour and a half cleaning out the strawberry banana smoothie that I managed to spill across the entire kitchen and on all over myself and my cell phone. So that's just like that smoothie spill has been kind of like the week for me. Like that is how this like week or so has felt.
I feel like Kyle at about once a term for president, about every 4 years, you have a great spill.
I do.
And I'm happy to see that has continued across even since we have no longer lived together.
When we did live together, I did just upturn an entire apple pie in our apartment onto the carpet.
Wasn't it cherry?
Maybe it was cherry.
I believe it was cherry because it was bright red.
Yeah, I really fucked that up. Kind of surprised that the apartment complex didn't pitch a fit.
Yeah, they didn't give
that.
a shit. No one cared at all, and we got the entire security deposit
honestly
back.
Incredible.
Was absurd.
That's incredible because the last apartment that I was in fought me over red fibers from towels getting enmeshed in the carpet, and I was like, motherfucker, just fucking get a wet dry vac thing or whatever and get it out of the carpet. I'm sure you guys have that. And they're like, nah, it's going to cost $800 because we have to replace the whole carpet because your fucking towel fibers got in our carpet. And, but we're running a discount right now and you only have to pay $600. So that's kind of a deal. That is literally what these motherfuckers did to me. Fuck you.
Fuck landlords.
Anyways, the final result of that story is I refused to pay it and it dinged my credit score. So they win. Anyways, wow. Niall, can I read an email? I'm fucking
yeah. Well, this has been a fun energy to start the pod.
This has been a good energy. Which honestly, like, I'm okay bringing this energy to this episode because, like, by the time I was done with this series of episodes, I was like, fuck these people, fuck everything about this, and fuck you being the world, basically.
Yeah.
Fuck the world.
Yeah.
We got an email from Ellen, by the way, or Ellie, as they signed their email. The email, the title says Danica Patrick, which I thought was interesting. Pretty interesting.
Okay.
Name
Indiana girl,
invoke.
right? Wasn't she like a? I feel like I heard a lot about Danica Patrick when we lived in Indiana, but I might be
Maybe?
It might just be because there's a lot of race car stuff in Indiana. I don't know.
Yeah, that could be it. Well, Ellie says, "Hey guys, I've been a fan of racing for a while now, but I never expected racing and my love for conspiracy theory podcasts to merge together and form a fucked up Venn diagram. It seems Danica Patrick is the latest to put out a podcast on lizard people.
Jesus Christ.
We always hear about celebrities coming out as conspiracy theorists. Why can't they just get really into good working or take up stand-up comedy? Regardless, keep up the good work. I know Elden Ring is a big thing now. Are there any video game conspiracies? As always, thanks for the ad-free weird, signed Ellie." Shouts out to Ellie. First of all, I didn't know that about Danica Patrick, and maybe we can do a Danica Patrick episode just based off of that, because that sounds interesting to me. Probably. I mean, I like, look, Ellie, I hate to tell you this. What this most likely means is that Danica Patrick is an anti-Semite. Is like the most likely conclusion here, but I'll have to check that out. As far as video game conspiracies go, I don't know if you remember now, but we did an episode about one of the presidents of Nintendo. Was it that he was like assassinated for conspiracy reasons?
Something
or is
like
it that he
yeah.
wasn't really dead or something?
It was really early on. I remember you doing that in like the maybe around 100, if I had to guess.
It was forever ago.
Yeah.
But if you look up like Nintendo on our website, the Libsyn, it's like, what is it? Itgetsweird.libsyn.com.
I think it might be It Gets Weird podcast, but yeah.
It Gets Weird.
Oh, cool.
And sorry, I just confirmed this. And yeah, we did that one. The thing is, like, when you look into quote unquote video game conspiracies, I'm sure there's got to be something out there that like better fits the bill of what we talk about on this show.
Mm-hmm.
But you're mostly going to find Gamergate types.
Or the like creepypasta lore, like Pokemon Black stuff that is like a step beyond in terms of made up what we normally cover. You know?
I don't want to reveal too much about myself here, but I did. Niall, have you ever heard of Ben Drowned?
I believe so.
It's I think Majora's Mask, like video game creepypasta bullshit. Very popular. One of the, I think, early ones. Yeah, I personally know that guy who created it.
Oh, cool.
No, not as cool as you think.
Oh, okay.
I don't want to like get too deep into like how I know this guy, but I do. And yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there.
Little weird cult name drop here.
Yeah, well, he was like shilling for, I want to say, like cryptocurrencies the last I checked in on him. So
okay.
I don't know what he's up to, but doesn't really matter. Anyways, wow, good email, great start to the podcast, fantastic energy. Niall, can I fucking take this series out back and shoot it?
Yeah,
like
take it home.
Lame dog.
Look, we're gonna try to steal home this episode and get through this and try to win that World Series. You know,
yes,
that's what the scenario we're in.
Exactly.
American like baseball, July 4th. Let's go.
Here at It Gets Weird, we're all about winning, and right now we are winning the alien deception conspiracy. So, in the previous two episodes, which you should definitely listen to because none of this will make sense if you haven't. Not that it makes sense regardless. We got into this what I'm calling the alien deception conspiracy. It's this fringe right-wing Christian UFO-based conspiracy, mostly concerned with the biblical end times and how other Christian sects that they don't seem to like, mostly the Catholics, are either in on the whole thing or like being duped by the whole thing. This conspiracy plot involves this like satanic Vatican telescope with infrared to detect fleets of alien ships in our solar system, plus biblical evidence of human-alien hybridization programs. And the popular and still growing belief in UFOs and aliens is just simply a sign of the end times. And we're kind of still left to wonder to what end. And I'm kind of predicting, Niall, that I'm going to need your like basic Bible knowledge in this episode to help me understand some things. Because like the thing is, like, if I were to like go and read scripture on top of this, I actually probably would be able to like at least understand what they're trying to say in certain parts. But I'm not doing that. So, yeah.
Look, I'll read whole books on conspiracy theories, but the Bible, that's where I cross the line.
Yeah, I agree. Although we have talked previously about a campaign to make me read the Bible.
I forgot about that. Yeah,
I don't know if I support that, but it could be like that could be interesting at least, I guess. A Bible
that thing that people do when they have like fantasy football leagues.
Yeah,
and the loser has to spend 24 hours in a McDonald's or a Waffle House or whatever.
I've never heard that one.
They can eat a bunch of stuff to try to like make it go short, make their time there shorter.
Oh my god.
We should do that with a live stream of you having to read the Bible.
Oh God. Okay. I mean, here's the thing. There's probably some interesting stuff going on in the Bible. Probably some interesting stories.
Mm-hmm.
And
there's like a whole book of smut in the middle.
I love that. And I bet it's also insanely boring in a lot of parts. So yeah, I mean, that could be fun. I would need a shepherd, Niall. To get through that. Just throwing that out there. But
I'll find you a nice Bible study. It'll be great.
Thank you. And there's also the problem of like, aren't there like a bunch of different Bibles and there's like a dispute on like which one's the good one?
Oh, translations are like it. We can't start talking about biblical translations.
Oh, well, they do talk about that a little bit in this series of articles here. Like I mentioned it, I think, in the previous episode, where like they're doing some stretching of definitions and translations to try and make some of this stuff fit their conspiracy.
Right.
So let's establish some more stuff about this conspiracy. We spent a lot of last episode establishing basically conspiracy style precedents for a lot of stuff, and I just wanted to add a few more things that the theorists over at Skywatch, who are the people who put out these articles, have cited as evidence for the existence of this conspiracy.
Okay.
However, because a lot of this shit, it's the same thing I did in the last one. A lot of this shit is long-winded, stupid, or something we've already discussed on the podcast before, or a combination of any one of those things together. I'm going to breeze through some of the stuff that they mention. So some things that they consider as backing evidence for the oncoming alien apocalypse. Here's just a short list of things. Skinwalker Ranch and the shapeshifters and portals that are said to exist in that location.
Okay.
Bigfoot and other human-like cryptids. Specifically, they mention the Beast of Bray Road, which is a humanoid werewolf cryptid.
Yeah. We did an episode on that one.
We did. And they also talk about secret government remote viewing experiments, a la the Men Who Stare at Goats. I think at one point I don't know if they actually name drop Project Stargate, but I think they quote somebody who worked on Project Stargate, which I did a whole series on that. I don't know, however many months ago now. They bring up Aleister Crowley and the Demon Lamb, who looks suspiciously like a gray alien. That's one from the Babylon Working, which we discussed so long ago, like pre-episode 100. Which I think is... I want to say that is like a part of the sex magic episode, but I also think... We've talked about Crowley multiple episodes. Let me put it
and
that
also
way.
been yelled at because it's supposed to be Crowley.
Crowley, yeah, my bad. They bring up George Adamski and the Space Brothers contactees as evidence of all this stuff. And finally, lots and lots of Dr. Jacques Vallée, specifically because of his investigation into Fey mythology and its interpretation through like a ufological lens. Like, he basically draws connections to the UFO experience of modern day and like stories of fairy folk being like cunning tricksters who like, you know, it'll be things like, you know, think of the pancake bakers from Mars, Niall. How they like offer food in exchange for water. And then like you can connect that same idea to fairies, like stories of fairies where they'll like exchange food from like the fairy world or whatever.
Yeah, and if you take it, you're like stuck there or whatever.
Yeah. So that's I think it's Passport to Magonia, which is where they're pulling a lot of those ideas from, which is a Vallée book. But they pull from a lot of his stuff because he's also, importantly for these guys, one of the OGs in the interdimensional ultra-terrestrial hypothesis stuff, where like aliens, basically his idea was that extraterrestrial visitation from outside our solar system doesn't seem like sufficient evidence to explain the UFO phenomenon, if it is indeed an alien thing. But possibly you could argue that it's some sort of interdimensional thing, and the interdimensionality of the phenomenon could also explain fairy experiences, like stories of fairies interacting with the human world. Like basically that there are these like other worlds that these things come from. That's the idea.
Gotcha.
So that's just like a short list. One of the things that they do that to like, I think piss me off specifically, is they spend an entire article talking for whatever fucking reason about Plato, Aristotle, and the ancient Greek atomists. And like, it's fucking baffling because like, I've been kind of reading about how materialism, the explanation that like all of reality is material and it's like, it's purely mechanistic. I'm not going to get into that, but like they're in this article going like Plato and Aristotle sort of like counter the materialist view of reality. And also that means that Plato and Aristotle are like, for whatever reason, I think they're trying to say that they're like running counter to the atomists who are the materialists. And thus they were like kind of almost able to predict the Christian God. It's baffling. Like, I genuinely don't really know why they go into this. There's a number of times where they like bring up ancient Greek stuff that I'm like sort of familiar with, and I'm like, why are you talking about this?
Yeah.
And and because like normally it would be like, yeah, Plato in this dialogue brings up the myth of Atlantis, and that's evidence that Atlantis, the lost city of Atlantis, existed, right?
Right.
They're not doing that shit. They're basically like trying to like have these like ancient historical things be bolsters for their particular Christian theology. It's very strange because like I don't know how I will say, and again, I'm not going to get deep into this, but like there was a pretty heavy presence of Plato in early Christianity. That is real.
Okay.
But they're like jumps and again, all I'm saying is this stuff was like pissing me off because I'm like, why are you talking about this? Has nothing to do.
Well, it's just because they spent so long, pissing off people who read the Bible differently. They figured they had to like go for, widen their impact and also go after philosophy nerds as well.
Yeah, it's super weird. and it does not seem to have to do with it. So basically, a lot of this was sifting through a lot of shit that I didn't think mattered at all. They seem to think it matters because it like illustrates why their particular Christianity is the right one, I think, is what they're going for. But it feels really incongruous. Anyways, also, speaking of incongruous, one of the things that really fucked up this episode that I told Niall about, the sidebar. So the way that you access these articles is it's like a little tiny header on a sidebar on their website, and it's like Article 1, Article 2, Article 3, Article 4, all the way up to Article 35, and they're all little links. And every single thing on the sidebar looks exactly like that. And so for part of my research on this episode, I started to get Niall into this, like, thing that I assume was associated with the broader conspiracy, because I was accidentally clicking on articles unrelated to the thing that I was talking about in these episodes that was basically about how Biden is working with Xi Jinping and there's some sort of shadow government, and they're also all working with the Vatican, and also the Pope is a secret Marxist. And I was like, okay. So I was like getting into that because I thought this was like a minor divergence where they're just like, here's how the Joe Biden presidency factors into the oncoming alien. Yeah, because they rope in the Vatican and the Pope as well, who we have established is like in on the whole thing.
Yeah, so like this is a thing that that I feel we come across in the podcast research phase that I don't know if it totally tracks with the listener. There are certain times you come across things that just feel like they would add some fun like asides to the episode that are like tangential, and they're not important to the main conspiracy, but you're like, this is interesting and worth talking about and it would be fun to share. So I guess it seems like it was something like that, and then it ended up just being an entire fucking separate thing.
I literally had to rewrite multiple pages of notes because I was like, oh, I'm clicking the wrong links and reading an entirely separate conspiracy that sounds like it probably could fit in, because why the fuck wouldn't it? And then the way I like realized like this can't be it is like I'm reaching the end of the articles that I was the wrong articles that I was clicking on, and I was like, they have devolved into this like really, really Islamophobic. God, you want to talk about pissing me off specifically again? They had a whole section in that conspiracy section that was like talking about Hegelian dialectics, and I was like, bro, what the fuck is happening right now? They're like saying like, yeah, synthesis, thesis, synthesis, thesis, antithesis, synthesis, which is not a thing that Hegel actually said, but it's trying to illustrate his dialectical idea. And they're using that to say that like this like Islamic Sharia law shit is the antithesis to Western democracy, and it's going to synthesize into the Pope's Marxist rule. And I'm like losing my fucking mind going like, hold the fuck up. How does this fit into anything? I was going insane reading that. It's so unhinged. If it weren't for these like really, really severe like Arab hating shit they're writing, I would probably want to talk about that whole conspiracy because it's very funny and genuinely baffling. But I was reading that shit, writing about it, going like, this seems different. Where are the aliens? Anyways, so they really like, I mean, I felt targeted reading this shit. So, God, where the hell was I? So I'm skipping through all this stuff, like I said, because it is really all meant to point towards a supernatural alien, like this idea of a supernatural alien force influencing our reality, and that force is likely demonic in nature, and that the Bible tells us so. Ultimately, Niall, demons are pretending to be aliens, and they're infiltrating humanity using hybrids. And apparently every ufologist ever offers supporting evidence for this claim, at least when you like take it out of context, it can.
Yeah, if you specifically like force their words into your little box, sure.
Yeah, exactly. And I kind of want to just illustrate what they're doing here because they have a quote from Valet, which is basically, or they pull a bunch of stuff from Valet, and then I want to give a quote on what they say is their sort of assessment of Valet's interdimensional hypothesis and like passport to Magonia style, like alien human interactions. Like with regards to like fairies and elves and stuff like that. So here's what they say. This is the conspiracy theorists talking. Quote, thus, the idea of deceptive nighttime creatures probing humans to gather genetic material for use in generating hybrid offspring agrees with Valet and his contemporaries who, following extraordinary research, determined that whatever the modern alien abduction encounters represent, their goal is a repeat of ancient activity involving the collection of DNA for 1, a breeding program, followed by 2, a hybridization program, and finally 3, an integration program, exactly what Watchers accomplished with Nephilim in ancient times.
Okay. I have not read a lot, like too much of Valet's things. I've mainly read people using his works for explaining other things.
Yeah.
But that doesn't really strike me as what Valet is intending.
No, I don't think that's... I think Valet is just... Because, like, they do refer to Valet as one of the good secular researchers in the articles. It's very funny. They're like, you know, there's a lot of demonic influence in the world, but, like, Valet, without a touch of you know, the religious insight, has arrived at these conclusions... And he intuits the problem that the good Christians writing at Skywatch understand through their dedication to the Bible, right? Like that's the idea here. It's like they literally say Valet is one of the good secular writers on UFOs. It's very funny. So,
okay.
Yeah, to be clear, one of Valet's hot topics is how similar stories of fairy folk are to the alien experience of modern-day UFO witnesses and abductees. He is interested in exploring the commonalities between a bunch of different phenomena throughout history in UFOs because, as far as I've been able to discern, he doesn't think the extraterrestrial hypothesis of UFOs is sufficient. This is what I was talking about a little bit before. That's why he's, like, exploring these ideas. Also, just a side note, but in the previous episode, we talked about Marian apparitions as being a type of UFO encounter, and that idea is coming from Valet. Like, when you talk about his interpretation of UFO, he kind of broadens the definition of the experience to include a lot of things like that. So people supposedly witnessing apparitions of Mary. There is one in particular that they're referencing that was, I think, in October of 1916, where these people claimed to see like a glowing object in the sky brighter than the sun that like conveyed a message to them about how the Great War will end. Meaning World War
I think I've heard of this. Yeah.
I do believe. So Valet like says like that was taken as a Marian apparition that I think was like officially like, I don't know if the word is sanctified, but treated as an official apparition of Mary by the Vatican. And Valet is saying this is a UFO experience. That's what that is.
It's an unidentified flying Mary. Like he's got a point.
But then, of course, we have these guys at Skywatch saying, you know, this is a deceiver, right? Like the Marian apparition. But my point that I'm getting at is the whole thing of the Marian apparition being a UFO experience comes from Valet, and Skywatch just kind of rips it directly. So it's just to affirm their own conspiracy.
Well, because Valet is one of the good ones and wouldn't mind them just taking these ideas and misinterpreting a lot of them.
Another idea that they rip from Valet is aliens needing basically as I understand it, human, or I guess just more broadly, biological vessels to allow themselves to materialize in our world. So they quote from Vallée's book called The Invisible College, and it says this. Quote, in order to materialize and take definite form, these entities seem to require a source of energy, a living thing, a human medium. Our sciences have not reached a point where they can offer us any kind of working hypothesis for this process. But we can speculate that these beings need living energy, which they can reconstruct into physical form. Perhaps that is why dogs and animals tend to vanish in UFO flap areas. Perhaps the living cells of those animals are somehow used by the ultra-terrestrials to create forms which we can see and sense with our limited perceptions. So,
okay.
This is classic Vallée stuff with the interdimensional hypothesis. They're saying, the thing is, like, when you hear, like, oh, they need biological stuff to have vessels with which we, with our limited perceptions, can see, and then you put the lemon zest of demon into that, and you get these guys. And like this is I think like sort of an attempt to, like, on its face, it's almost like a way to explain animal and pet disappearances around UFO hotspots, which, Niall, you and I have endless amounts of stories that end up with dogs disappearing or dying.
The unfortunate common theme of a lot of our episodes.
Yeah. Well, this is one of the explanations for that idea. And then, like, or just like cattle mutilation in general with UFOs. Like, that's an explanation. Or I'm not saying it's like a good explanation or anything.
Yeah,
but
it's lazy writing, but it is technically an explanation.
So yeah, but then, like, they stretch this a bit further with this conspiracy stuff to imply that it is an explanation for the hybrid program, allowing for vessels that they can inhabit on Earth to enact their plans.
Yeah. I do think it's interesting that the UFO community in general, now I guess we do a lot of historical research, so maybe they've switched in more recent times, but they're stuck on the writing trope of dead dog instead of the writing trope of bury your gaze. So I think that, like, we might be, sometime in the next 20 to 30 years, the conspiracy community might discover the bury your gaze trope, and then their writing's going to change forever.
It could very. I mean, we can only hope, really.
Yeah.
But they apply this evil alien idea to as many significant historical things as they can, which, again, I skipped over because it feels so inconsequential.
Yeah.
They talk about everything from ancient Egyptians to Galileo. You can guess about the ancient Egyptians because they straight up are, like, talking about Zecharia Sitchin in a lot of this, who you have been reading. But then they'll, like, bring up Galileo and, like, heliocentrism, and they, like, talk about, I want to say, like, Galileo, it was a telescope that allowed him to, like, discover a moon somewhere in our solar system. And they go on this long-winded explanation about Galileo and stuff to then bring up that, like, I think one of Galileo's, like, I don't know, fans or whatever wrote him a letter arguing that there were like beings on the moon that he discovered. There were, like, creatures on the.
Okay.
And that's like the whole, but the whole article is, like, dedicated to this idea. And it's like, okay, great. What about that? Like, cool, I guess.
And literally, was this person a cop? Were they drunk? Like, what's the, why should we care?
They spend entire articles dedicated to, like, here's a weird event from history. Anyways, this is evidence for everything. And it's like, okay, whatever. I'm moving on.
Yeah, citing a bunch of unconfirmed stuff from the past to prove your big hypothesis. I get it.
Yeah, and like it's not always clear why they bring this stuff up, but then sometimes it seems like they're rehashing old, like, religious sect beefs, mainly to show how the Vatican is, like, not the true Christianity or whatever, like Catholicism is wrong or whatever.
Yeah.
But other times it's like to give evidence of UFOs and aliens and then draw a bunch of, like, spurious conclusions about hybrid programs. So they even, of course, again, just a couple things that they name drop. They name drop Bud Hopkins.
Cool.
Who is a natural fit for this because we talked about him it was not too long ago, Deborah Keel or whatever her name was, Deborah Norin something or other.
Yeah.
Where she was like hypnotized by Bud Hopkins and interviewed, and he worked with her to like tease out her abduction experience. And Bud Hopkins was like very fixated on like the ideas of like aliens coming and abducting people and taking DNA, and specifically like I think he goes off on the Betty and Barney Hill case, which one of the sticking points for people who like talk about the hybridization programs is how that's like the first documented abduction case or whatever, and they took sperm and egg samples from Betty and Barney Hill.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, they just like extrapolate from that there's like a genetic hybridization thing going on with the aliens. So it's like when you speculate about why they would need those samples.
There's a lot of DNA in like abduction cases. A lot of stuff about them taking samples of your like, you know, the circular punch mark or whatever the fuck that everyone talks about, and the triangular mark and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of codified sample scientific stuff with aliens. So
yeah,
it makes sense.
But if they're and you know, Bud Hopkins was also I think obsessed with like women who claimed, because Deborah Norin Kuhn. I'm not remembering her name.
I don't know.
But she like has there's a whole angle to the abduction experience where there are women who claim to have been abducted when they were pregnant or have become pregnant from an abduction, lost the pregnancy, whatever. Lots of people going on to ships with aliens being shown their hybrid children and stuff like that. Very fixated on that idea. Natural fit for this conspiracy, Bud Hopkins, even though I never got the impression that Bud Hopkins was like coming at it from a like very religious or spiritual angle.
Yeah.
So just to make this as easy as I can moving forward, to help people at home, here is just a very quick recap of what's going on here, okay? To bring us all back so we can conclude this thing. 1. Ancient aliens have been meddling with human life since at least ancient times, and this has been documented in the Bible. 2. These aliens are, according to these conspiracy theorists, interdimensional beings that are demonic in nature and pulling a big deceptive wool over our eyes. 3. The Bible, when read at a funny angle, reveals the truth about the existence of these demonic aliens. 4. Demon aliens are creating human demon alien hybrids who are also the biblical Nephilim. 5. These hybrids walk among us on modern day Earth. They have reinstated this hybridization program from ancient Bible times. I'm going to stop numbering them. The hybrids can see into invisible realms, such as the spirit world, but also into whatever dimension these alien demon beings come from.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bunch of scare quotes evidence throughout history of the existence of the alien demons' influence in the hybridization program. The Vatican and the various popes throughout history have been sometimes the victim of and sometimes the active players of deception insofar as they are synthesizing popular belief in aliens with the Christian faith. However, keep in mind that aliens are not aliens. They are interdimensional demon aliens, but some people don't know that.
Right, that's important.
The Vatican wants to maybe baptize these aliens, which I think means that the aliens are a sort of mass antichrist event, because they're sort of these false spiritual leaders, or they will be when they come here, and the baptism serves to deceive Christians around the world. Not when they come here, when they reveal themselves, rather, is closer to what they're saying. Some people do know that the aliens are demons and are willingly working with these demon alien beings, and I think the current pope may be one of these people, but it's sort of unclear. They do seem to think world leaders and some shadow government are working with them. There and that shadowy elite group that's definitely not Jewish are working behind the scenes with the Vatican and these aliens. Like they talk about Roswell and how in the fallout of the Roswell crash, governments have decided to form pacts with these aliens to let them do what they want on Earth in exchange for something.
Technology or something, probably. Yeah.
The alien demons seem to want to bring about the apocalypse as prophesied in the Bible for some reason. I think they seem to be leading to, and we'll get into this, that they're related to Satan. and that they're sort of a satanic army. Although up until now, that had been sort of unclear, like why this was happening. And then everything I have just laid out is backed up by the Bible, so you have to believe it.
Of course. Yeah, all of this, all that makes so much sense and is like
Normal,
just true.
and-
I don't even know why we're covering this on It Gets Weird. We should be on It Gets Normal, our sister show, where we just talk about mundane daily things.
I agree. This is, I mean, you've been paying attention to the news cycle. This is all that's been in the news. Everybody knows about this shit. I'm not saying anything new. And yeah, it's honestly, this is a low point of the show, Niall. No. So you're with me.
Yeah.
I really wanted to like resituate us so we understand.
For like a 3-parter, you gotta occasionally just be like, okay, so here's the important bullet points of what we've covered so far, or else you just get lost in the sauce.
Yeah. So now that you're with me, fully with me, just bringing it back. After a few articles that they dedicate to interviews that they conducted with various UFO personalities. So this guy, Thomas Horn, he says Dr. Thomas Horn. I don't know.
You didn't check his bona fides?
Nah, he's like a pastor. I don't know. Or sorry, he was. We'll get to that. So apparently Horn at some point got interviews with Nick Pope and Bruce Maccabee, who like Nick Pope is like a very vocal British UFO guy who kind of sucks ass. And then Bruce Maccabee, I'm trying to remember. There's so many fucking names. But he was another prominent UFO guy. I think he's been dead for a while now, though. But a very prominent UFO figure. But this is when we start to kind of get the big reveals, sort of. It's not very linear the way these articles are laid out. So I kind of had to like figure out what the conclusion of everything was because it's not clear. But Thomas Horn, this guy who owns Skywatch, he's the guy who in some capacity was related to the Jim Baker show. I think he's maybe been on Coast to Coast, probably not Coast to Coast with Art Bell, probably with George Norrie. Because that seems more in line with the George Norrie era of Coast to Coast. That's a whole thing. Yeah. But Horn cites another Christian UFO conspiracy website called Prophecy Watchers and its owner, Gary Stearman, to lay out the actual thesis statement of the whole conspiracy. And this is in the 35th article, by the way, where you get
Jesus Christ.
you get the plainly laid out, like, this is what this is all about, really. Like, and also, I would just like to point out how much of their articles are just quoting and taking giant chunks of stuff from other people.
Yeah, how else are you going to write 35 articles about this?
Exactly. And then you fill it in with some like, AI reinventions of like Wikipedia articles on like ancient Greek philosophers, Yeah. That's how you do it. But here they quote Gary Stearman, who is honestly the exact same brand of conspiracy theorist as this Dr. Horn guy. And it says this: as a Bible-believing Christian, I hold to the conviction that the tribulation period lies in our near future. According to prophecy, this time will be heralded by the release of dark spiritual forces posing as saviors of planet Earth. Soon, the restraining effect of God's Spirit will be lifted from this planet, and hell itself will be released to torment mankind. When the age of the church comes to an end, these forces will convince many that they are presenting the super-scientific solution to man's problems. Instead, they will enthrall a gullible mankind into bondage and spiritual deceit. Aliens from outer space is their camouflage in our present age. Their current message to mankind is, let us help you overcome your warlike, polluting ways and build a bridge to future peace. That message is the oldest lie on Earth, spawned by their chief scientist/sociologist, Satan. As long as we remain here, Christians must endeavor to expose these dark spirits for what they really are. So
the fact that he has like a fucking hyphenated job title is fucking great.
He's
chief scientist and sociologist.
Satan is a scientist come sociologist. And that is the Latin come thank you. And yeah, wouldn't you know it, all these Christian UFO end times conspiracy sites, these people writing for them all have also had their own amazing UFO experiences. Like Dr. Horn, he claims to have, I'm just going to call him Horn. I don't trust the doctor part. And honestly, can you like call somebody who's dead a doctor still? Because they're no longer around to defend their PhD.
So,
like,
sorry, that question took me so off guard. It took me a second to like even get for it to register. Yeah, I do think that you have to forfeit your PhD upon death.
When you're dead. Yeah,
it's the last thing you do on your deathbed. And if you don't actually revoke your PhD on your deathbed, then you do go straight to hell.
A doctor is an extant thing. Okay. So yeah, he claims to have witnessed a physics-defying UFO alongside his wife back in the 1970s while making his way through Shoals Mountain in Oregon. And these initial encounters left them with a question. This is the, if you'll pardon the sort of like jokey thing here, this seems to be the genesis for why Horn is so interested in this question, because after seeing this UFO, knowing what he saw with his own two eyes, he was left with the question, are UFOs good or bad things? And can we turn to the Bible for an answer to that question?
Oh, of course we can. We can. Of course, we always can. The Bible holds all the answers.
So they specifically cite a quote from Paul. So I'm just going to read what they said, because paraphrasing, it doesn't make sense. But they said, and I learned of the principalities and powers in heavenly places mentioned by Paul in Ephesians 3:10. They are good as well as evil. The dark forces answer to their master Satan, called in Ephesians 2:2 the prince of the power of the air.
Okay.
So, Paul's description of this is what they're saying. Paul's description of Satan as the prince or archon of the air, or prince of the power of the air, is indicative of where this deception will originate.
From like space, from the air, like what?
This title speaks to the abode of the fallen angels. According to the theologian Fred Dickinson's angelology, this title might be rendered the ruler of the empire of this atmosphere. It pictures Satan's position and activity as a dominating leader operating a kingdom that centers in the atmosphere of the earth.
So he's got like a sky city?
What they're saying is that when Satan's army appears at humanity's doorstep, it will be through the very atmosphere of the planet.
Okay.
And that's, again, connected to UFOs, right?
Right.
That's where we see them.
From the sky, sure.
So, and let me read to you verbatim the way they finish this statement up, because it's so fucking good. Here's what it says. While more liberal interpreters might think we are pressing a metaphor too far, this is certainly the preferred reading. When seeking to understand an ancient text, it is essential to search for the author's intended meaning. And for a first century Jew, this description was literal. So,
okay, so I'm glad they know the inner mind workings of a first century Jew.
Yeah. What?
Oh,
I just want to read that again. While more liberal interpreters might think we are pressing a metaphor too far, this is certainly the preferred reading.
The preferred, yeah, it would be your preferred reading because it fits all your fucking bullshit. Like,
so good.
Come on.
So yeah, in short, when you turn to the Bible to investigate strange atmospheric apparitions, such as UFOs, you can only interpret it as a dark spirit that works for Satan.
Oh, of course.
Now, we had also previously established that Watchers, which were these like biblical angelic beings, were likely an alien force on Earth and like a part of the like earliest known alien human hybridization program by like basically creating the Nephilim by having these Watcher beings come down and impregnate human women, because the Watchers are clearly like this alien force.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that to make this conspiracy make some sense, while I don't think they like explicitly say it, they're sort of suggesting that the Watchers from the Bible are part and parcel of the modern UFO phenomenon, like it's all the same thing. And like I said, the Watchers procreate with human women. So that's the early hybridization program. But here's the important thing. This is the very important thing. They have scripture that I think comes from the book of Enoch, which, like, I honestly don't even know what that is.
It's an apocryphal book of the Bible that was not. It's so basically it's not part of the canon. It was not put into the Bible specifically, but it is one of the. I forget exactly what form it survives in, if it's complete or partial, but it's a kind of apocryphal book of the Bible.
Okay, so
that's pretty famous.
I think they actually like use a lot of apocryphal sources. Mm-hmm. Is my understanding, because they were mentioning books that are like, this is some Jewish scripture from something that you've never heard of, and stuff like that. But then also like Book of Enoch, which I was like, I don't know that one.
Yeah,
so.
Enochian is supposedly like the angelic language, so Enoch is like angel related.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay. Well, here's what they say about what they get from the Book of Enoch. They were saying that redemption was not possible for any of the fallen Watchers or their hybrid offspring, though the Nephilim were part human. And it goes on, in this sense, Nephilim could be compared to an extraordinary primate, intelligent like men and angels, even possessing human DNA, but not Homo sapien as fashioned by God in his image. In further confirmation of their status as unredeemable, we also learn from this strange narrative of a primal belief concerning two types of resurrection from the dead. One that is strictly terrestrial, for example, a dead Nephilim can return from the grave to inhabit another corruptible body of flesh, and a second future resurrection in which eternal glorified bodies are promised only for those who sleep in Christ. Isaiah makes it clear that the Watcher's offspring cannot participate in the latter. In chapter 26:14 of his book, he says, "The Nephilim are dead, they shall not live. They are deceased, they shall not rise. Therefore hast thou visited and destroyed them, and made all their memory to perish." The word rendered deceased from the Hebrew implies shades or ghosts of the dead. So the point here, Niall, is that the final demonic act of Satan through this big UFO deception is to create an entire race of beings on Earth who are exempt from salvation. And this is in the hopes that nobody will be saved on the judgment day.
So, so they're trying to... So this is kind of feeding into that whole kind of karmic conspiracy stuff of like trying to separate people from the rebirth cycle thing, kind of, where like since they're not going
but with
to
the
heaven,
Bible, yeah. No, you're right. Actually, I didn't think about that, but you're 100% right because. No, sorry. Go ahead.
That's like the like less Christian centric version of this kind of archon evil Nephilim conspiracy kind of thing.
That I didn't make that connection, but you're 100% right. There is this new age version where basically it's like lower consciousness beings, basically people who have not elevated their consciousness through whatever
have not paid all the fees to get the inner working stuff from the light workers that allows them to ascend, that kind of bullshit.
Then they will be exempt from like this recycle process of souls. It's really the same idea, but without the sort of Christian angle. It's more of a broadly spiritual angle. Which in this Christian, see, here's the thing though, in this Christian version, the spiritualist version is a deception.
Right.
Just keep that in mind. This is the true one that we're talking about.
Oh, sure. For sure.
So,
yeah.
So, yeah. What this is all getting at is, well, it's confusing. Let's start with that. In this interpretation of the Bible and the history of UFOs, we see that contactees and abductees are not safe because it's safe to assume that UFO abductions are demonic attacks against the human race in service of Satan. And they bring up this thing. This was honestly such an insanely. I got to go on a deep dive on whatever the fuck this all was.
Okay.
But they have I want to quote something that they wrote here. It says, supporting the notion that so-called alien abductions are demonic attacks, the CE4 research group has published testimonies from former victims describing aliens reacting to the name of Jesus, much in the same way that demons responded to his name in the New Testament, and also finding lasting freedom by living a repentant Christian lifestyle.
I feel like I vaguely remember a UFO abduction where Jesus was, it was like maybe one of the Brazilian ones or something.
Yeah, this website, I had to look up this CE4 research group.
Okay.
It's on this busted ass website, but apparently what it is filled with audio testimonies from UFO abductees who claimed that, quote, alien abductions can stop and can be terminated as a life pattern in the name and authority of Jesus Christ.
The power of Christ compels the aliens to stay away. All right.
It's honestly like crazy. Like, I'm going to send you this website, but it is literally like, here are these audio and written testimonies from people who are like, I was able to end the alien visitation and abduction experience by invoking the name of Christ.
So not only can the power of Christ allow you to pray the gay away, but it can allow you to pray the grays away.
That's exactly.
Probably about as effective in both.
Yeah, definitely. So I want to just read this last little passage from them that, again, I think kind of lays out what they're sort of trying to say here. Sort of. But here's what they say in one of the last articles. Historians write that the floodgates opened on the UFO phenomenon only months prior to when Bible prophecy scholars also this is so crazy, by the way, to when Bible prophecy scholars also mark a decisive moment. If you remember, 1947 is when the UFO phenomenon became a huge deal, right? It's Kenneth Arnold, Roswell, etc. So let me continue what they said. Historians write that the floodgates opened on the UFO phenomenon only months prior to when Bible prophecy scholars also mark a decisive moment: the restoration of the nation of Israel on May 14th, 1948. So,
wow.
The creation of the state of Israel is connected to the resurgence of the UFO phenomenon in modern times, is what they're saying. They straight up say the correlation is suggestive. Since the time of Israel's reformation, there has been a near exponential increase in UFO sightings and related phenomena like abduction. This has led an increasing number of theologians to the hypothesis that such entities play a pivotal role in the end-time deception predicted in Scripture. In his classic Biblical Demonology, Merrill Unger observed, quote, demonism bears a striking relation to the doctrine of last things, and all classes of mankind, Jew, Gentile, and the Church of God, will be intimately and vitally affected by the last day upsurge of evil supernaturalism. And we believe it's possible that this Trojan horse operation will round the knee of its exponential curve as the sixth seal of the seven-sealed scroll is cracked, and the earth will be led to believe the extraterrestrials have arrived en masse.
Okay.
The implication here is that at the end of all of this, humanity will have been led to believe in the UFO phenomenon, and that the UFOs have good spiritual intentions for the human race, and that soon these aliens will arrive en masse to reveal themselves to us, but this will be the final demonic intervention on humanity, a massive UFO attack or abduction on Earthlings to prevent anyone from being saved by the light of Jesus Christ.
I love how the main thing that Christian conspiracy theorists want to do is say, no, nothing good will ever happen on Earth. If something looks like it's good, it's a deception meant to separate
bad.
you from God. Your life is supposed to suck. You're only supposed to be happy in heaven.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting choice to make. that I think about sometimes.
Now, to explain, so one of the ways that I got to this series of articles is I fell down this sort of like rabbit hole where I saw people talking about how the rapture in the Bible, as described by the Bible, is actually a mass UFO abduction event. Is what I had been. That was like the thread I was trying to pull at. I couldn't find anything substantive until I got to these articles. But the thing is, what they're describing is a mass abduction event to basically destroy humanity. Now, here's my question for you. Here's where you can help me.
Okay.
I thought the rapture is when everybody who was saved by Christ gets teleported to heaven.
Correct.
So that confused me a little bit because in this version, it sounds like what they're saying is that the people being abducted will be the ones who are like being turned into these unsalvationable hybrids.
Right.
So does that mean the rapture in the Bible is false? I don't quite understand, because it sounds like if you're left behind in this mass alien abduction event, you're actually safe.
From
is
that
what it sounds
specifically,
like.
Yeah. Like, it seems like they're trying, because like, this is, here's the thing. This is not going to actually make sense.
Okay.
But
that's
it
okay.
seems
None
like
of this
what's
has made
happening
sense.
here is that they're basically saying, we're going to take all the people that would have been raptured in the biblical rapture, and we're going to separate them from God. So when they think they're being raptured, they're actually being taken by the bad people and turned into hybrids. So God then doesn't have his, the kingdom of heaven is more empty. And the people left on earth think that the rapture happened because for some reason that's important. But in reality, it was the reverse rapture.
Interesting. They don't say that, but I could
That's
see
what it
that
sounds
being
like.
the idea. Yeah. No, I think that makes some sense. But Niall, that's really like there's more that they talk about, but that's really I got to the meat of this thing, I think.
Yeah.
But I did have a couple side things I want to bring.
Feel free
to bring up.
This was some fun quickies.
We wrap this up. So I checked out the store for the Skywatch website.
Hell yeah.
I love looking at the stores that these people have. And it's a lot of like DVD bundles that are like, because they have a streaming service as well.
So like they're not just on Gaia like everybody else. They have their own thing.
I bet you Gaia's too new age for them. This is more Christian fundamentalist. They have like a streaming service, but then they also seem to sell like bundles of books and DVDs, which I think the books might be compilations of the articles, but then the DVDs are like these videos about the stuff they're talking about in the articles. I don't know. I honestly don't fucking care. But and they're all advertised like, you can get these for a minimal donation of $40, which is like a $300 value or whatever. And I'm like, okay,
look, they're giving you giving you a really good deal.
They really did learn from the Jim Baker show, because that's the exact same shit they do on that on those like evangelical TV shows. But I was looking around. They sell tons of crap, right? But one of the things that stood out to me among all this stuff, like it's all conspiracy, Christianity, Bible fucking stuff, right?
Right.
But then there was one thing where I was like, that's somebody's music album they're selling.
Do we have someone to add to our like conspiracy playlists?
Well, they're selling an album called This Time Around by Joe Horn, who I can only assume is Dr. Horn's son.
Okay.
So
Nepo baby
little Nepo baby on Daddy's Skywatch Conspiracy Christianity website to sell my album. The album is This Time Around, featuring hit songs like Miss America, Talk to Jesus, Mama Knew Best, Won't Quit Serving Him, and my personal favorite title, Proverb Queen.
Which is just like a biblical parody of Dancing Queen. It's really it's really something.
Yeah, exactly. So I think this is his son, and he was like, "Daddy, can I put my album up on your fucking your fucked up website, Daddy? I gotta sell this fucking thing. I printed 50 copies, and nobody's buying them.
The
maybe
idea
one of your guys will."
Of someone in a terrible drawl saying "Proverb Queen," your favorite verse is Proverb 17, is just killing me right now. Proverb
It's very
Queen.
good. That's
your
oh my god.
Verse is Proverb 17. Come on, we got it here.
And you're the perfect person to come up with the Proverb Queen.
Oh yeah,
Dancing Queen.
You gotta love any time my like weird first grade obsession with ABBA gets to get brought up in this podcast.
Maybe we'll have to write that one down, because that's fantastic. So yeah, I do believe this is the son of the owner of Skywatch, Dr. Tom Horn. Well, I should say former owner.
Oh, we got it taken away from him.
So no.
Okay, I was hoping he got fucking. I was hoping there was a coup.
He wishes he had it taken away from him. Sorry, let me restate that. He wished he had it taken away from him.
Oh, okay.
Dr. Tom Horn, the guy who may have co-authored this 35-part series of articles alongside other writers and maybe artificial intelligence, it's hard to say. It's kind of like some of these things feel like they're just rewriting some Wikipedia articles with a thesaurus or using AI. I really don't know. He passed away on October 23rd, 2023 due to, quote, severe cardiovascular issues. A year previously, he had been hospitalized with COVID-19, which afflicted him with long COVID. And I would just like to point out that beyond the UFO deception conspiracy, Skywatch also peddled many COVID-19 conspiracy stuff, many COVID-19 conspiracy articles as well. So, just another example, Dr. Tom Horn, righteous guy to the end. Just another good example of why masking and vaccines are fucking stupid. You got to go out like Dr. Tom Horn.
Yeah, that should be who you're aspirational towards,
Yeah. So, Niall, that's it. That's the 3-part. I hope you enjoyed that, because I don't want to call this a labor of love. It was a labor of pain and suffering mostly.
Yeah. You can just leave it at a labor,
Yeah, a labor. I was so fixated on this shit that I just couldn't help myself, even though it turned out to be a very painful experience. That's the story. Are you ready for a big question?
Of course I am. What you got?
I introduced you in this episode to the fantastic music of Joe Horn.
Right.
Writer of such songs as Proverb Queen. And I wanted you to help me pitch a couple titles of songs that he could maybe write that would be concerned with the topic of the alien deception conspiracy on the same website, mind you.
Right. I think I've got a good one for you.
Okay.
This one's one of those ones that you kind of have to hear it said. Luckily, this is an audio medium, so it'll work. It's going to be titled "Nephilim with Your Love," and it's "your" is capitalized because it's God's love.
Okay. Yes, of course. That's a good one. Niall, you've gotten me really into Squeeze lately.
True. Yeah.
And I just think they could maybe do a really great parody song. And I know that this is a related phenomenon, really. But they don't specifically use this language in these articles. But maybe they could do a Squeeze-style tribute song called Scalping Souls from a Shell.
Okay, yeah. So you're getting, they're scooping those souls out so they can fill them with demons. Yep.
Exactly. Which, Squeeze fans out there get the reference.
Which is that's still the funniest excuse you could give for why you have a black eye in your day-to-day life. If you ever have a black eye you don't want to explain, just say you got soul scalped and then just the conversation will end. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I don't know, because I've been getting into Squeeze lately, 85% of those songs are about sex.
Oh yeah, they were a horny fucking band.
That was I didn't know that you find out what the lyrics are to Pulling Muscles from a Shell, 100% just about a guy having sex in the summer. But I'm trying to think of some other.
Black Ops in Bed.
Black Ops in Bed. That's good.
Yeah.
That's
my
good.
my favorite Squeeze song, Black Coffee in Bed. Now She's Gone. With, let's see. Oh God, I don't know how to turn. I'm not good at instantly doing the like transforming lyrics thing.
It's hard.
I'm no Weird Al.
No, we would love to have him on the show though.
Sure.
Maybe they could do like a Bruce Springsteen thing, Born to Run Away from the Alien Abduction.
Born to run away from the alien deception. Yeah.
Yes. Or like an Iggy Pop thing, the abductee. God, that's a stupid joke.
That's fucking great.
Thank you. But yeah, I don't know.
Look, I really should have saved Nephilim with Your Love for later.
Nephilim with Your Love is
because that would have been a good kiss off. And I don't have a better one, so let's just act like I'm ending it with that one.
The Beatles. I Want to Abduct You. She's So Heavy.
Okay. Yeah.
Fuck. I gotta think of other songs. Well, I think people get the picture.
Yeah, let's see. I'll go with a parody of Brainiac's Vincent Come On Down, and it's going to be just aliens come on down.
There you go.
Keep it
Check
easy.
out Brainiac, by the way, everybody.
Great fucking band.
Hissing Prigs and Static Couture, the craziest album name I've ever heard. Really fucking good. Check that out.
Yeah.
I think that about covers it now. I don't know if we can possibly do anything.
No, look, sometimes when you spend this long with one thing, you're so happy to get through it and be done with it that it's hard to think of anything else. So I think at this point we can just be happy from all of our journey throughout this great world of alien deception, conspiracy theories, and move on. So let's go on and move on to some business.
Sounds good.
All right. If you want to find us on social media, we're on Twitter at IGW Podcast.
You can follow us on Facebook.com/It Gets Weird Podcast.
And we're on all your favorite podcatchers. Look up It Gets Weird wherever you listen to podcasts, and you'll probably find us.
Twitch.tv/It Gets Weird. Check it out for some live streaming. I'm actually going to be gone this weekend, so not this weekend. Sorry, folks. But we've been back live streaming some of the new Elden Ring DLC, which has been a lot of fun. So go check us out over there. Email us at itgetsweirdpodcast@gmail.com. If you want to talk to us about like fucking Dana Carvey or some fucking shit, that's the place to do it.
Sure.
So thank you for the emails also. We've been really enjoying a lot of the stuff that's been coming in lately. Patreon.com/itgetsweird. At the $2 tier, you get access to It Gets Weird TV, where right now we are discussing the X-Files Season 2. Niall and I are getting into it. We're in the back half of that season, and it's been a lot of fun. We also have a $5 tier where you get another bonus show on the off weeks of It Gets Weird TV. Whether you donate to the $2 tier or the $5 tier, you get access to the main show 2 days early on Friday instead of Sunday, and you get access to the Discord where we're all hanging out chatting with listeners of the show, talking about all kinds of stuff. We also have a $1 tier where you don't get anything. You're just kind of giving us a tip saying, hey, like the show, thanks for doing what you do, here's $1. If you can't donate, please tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell your congressman all about It Gets Weird Podcast.
All right. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for continuing to support the show. This has been It Gets Weird, and I've been Niall.
And I'm Kyle, signing out.
Peace.